Now, Nancy, we're only just into the first days of competition, and we said this was going to be an Olympics like no other. It's proving to be, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, today has just been a very kind of dramatic day. There's just been a lot going on, especially in the world of women's sport. So yeah, but I think we should start probably with Simone Biles, who is probably since Rio 2016 being one of the most iconic female athletes. But yeah, today in the artistic gymnastics team event, she
we should point out that we're recording this on a Tuesday, so the day before it's going out. So we're talking about the events that already happened today. Yes, exactly. And we should also mention that we're going to be getting someone on here shortly who's actually in Tokyo, Sarah Dawkins with Sky Sports News. So we're getting it straight from the horse's mouth what it was like out there. But the news that broke actually while we were talking to Sarah.
Yeah, so it was kind of just I think there was a kind of maybe 20 minutes before, so Biles had done a vault. I think it was her first kind of attempt in the whole event, and scored 13.766, which is her lowest score on the vault ever in the Olympics, and then withdrew from the event. So I think there was initially concerns that she was injured because she kind of like fell slightly when she did the vault. But then it later emerged that she'd withdrawn to focus on her mental health. And she just said she kind of just didn't feel in the right place to keep going and decided to protect herself and her mental health. So, I mean, it's impossible to know what would have happened if she had kept going, especially, if she wasn't feeling quite up to competing. But the US did get a silver medal, which I saw it was the first time in a team event, at a major event since 2010 that they haven't got the gold, which just shows how dominant the US have been in recent years in artistic gymnastics. So yeah, the silver, I think, was probably a bit of a disappointment to the team. And Russia were the winning team, and then it was quite a historic bronze medal for Team GB. I think very unexpected. We had a very young team there who hadn't really, but they had achieved on the international stage, but not really as much as kind of some of the other gymnasts competing. So I think for a bronze for Britain was really good news. But definitely the main story coming out of the gymnastics was definitely Biles' withdrawal, and we're just going to wait and see whether she will be competing at the individual in the individual events later this week, because she's still got 3 Olympic titles to defend.
Yes, and we've kind of been left hanging on that, haven't we? Because various reports have said, we'll just see how it goes and whether she will come back. But kind of reading between the lines, you have to wonder if she will, if she's not in a good place. Because to do that in a team competition is one thing, and but if she's not up to these games, for whatever reason, a health reason, we may not see her performing for individual medals. Yeah,
I think it will be. It's quite a short turnaround, isn't it, really? I think the individual all-around is on Thursday, so that's kind of 2 days. But I think just kind of, in terms of the games, in terms of sport, in terms of women's sport, it would just be a massive shame not to have her competing, because, like I said, since she kind of, set Rio on fire by winning 4 gold medals, she's just been so iconic since then, and by far, considered one of the best gymnasts in the world. So I think, hopefully she's in a good place to be competing, and hopefully we'll all be able to enjoy her performing at her best. So yeah, we'll just have to keep our fingers crossed that she can recover in time.
Yes, because this would likely be her last Olympic Games. Would that be fair to say? I don't want to.
Yeah, I think so, and I think
her early.
She definitely said last year, before the Games got postponed, that I think this was meant to be her last year, because I remember when the Games did get postponed, she decided to stay on for another year so she could compete at the Olympics. So I think it had definitely been her plan to retire around this time, and potentially maybe that's kind of what's gone into this, maybe not feeling quite right, or not feeling like she's up to competition. Maybe the retirement plans has come into play a bit there. But yeah, I definitely think this would be her last Olympic Games.
Okay, well, we'll follow that. We'll have an update, of course, for you next week and our analysis on that story as it unfolds here and we move into the second week. Now, more news, which was another major upset from Tokyo, because we all expected tennis player Naomi Osaka to win gold, didn't we? We truly did that. We thought we can put some money on this. She's going to, she saved herself. She missed the French Open and then Wimbledon and saved herself to compete for gold in front of her home crowd. But it's not to be.
Yeah, I think, it's with the Olympics, a lot of the time you get these kind of fairy tale stories where everything just seems to go right. And, you have it so often where like a home athlete wins gold in front of a home crowd. And with Osaka, like you said, she had the timeout. And then I think when Ashley Barty went out in the first round, it was like, okay, so Osaka's easily the one to beat here. There aren't really that many other players that even come close to her when she's performing at her best. And as well, one of her favourite services, she's, won the US Open twice and the Australian Open twice, both on court. And this tournament was on court. It was on a service that she was comfortable on. So it was, I think, a massive shock. And I said to you before, it's a bit strange because you kind of, the things that happen overnight, you can't watch them because you're asleep, and you wake up and you just read it and it doesn't really kind of sink in properly. It's just kind of a headline that says Osaka has lost in the third round. But yeah, kind of more today as I was thinking about it. And I wrote a piece today about who are the, who can win gold now, kind of 4 other contenders that could win gold now in the tennis competition. It was kind of really, it's a real shame, I think, because I think it would have been a really good story. And I think obviously she had put a lot into making sure she was ready for the Olympics. And yeah, just a bit of a shame.
Yeah, it is disappointing, especially in front of her home crowd as well. But I guess we'll see her back I'm hoping we'll see her back here for the US Open. What do you think?
Yeah, I think, she hasn't said, but I imagine now she's back on the court, especially the US Open. That is kind of her Grand Slam. So I think she'll be back, and she'll probably have a point to prove as well after this defeat.
Yes, or a few points to prove.
Yeah, well, hopefully she get more than 1 point.
All right, we're going to move on to football now. You see, I'm calling it football already, especially because it's the Olympic Games, and we've seen today teams that will be moving through to the quarterfinals. But what's your review so far of the competition? It's been very exciting. I think it's been a really good contest, and I've said this before, but it's because you've only got 12 teams in the tournament. So every team there has gone through a difficult qualification period. They're the best in the world. They're, tough. They're not going to just kind of be absolutely thrashed. And because of that as well, we've got some really, really interesting quarterfinal matchups, which I think are going to be really, just throw up some really good performances and hopefully great goals as well. So we've got Canada versus Brazil, Britain versus Australia, Sweden versus Japan, and the Netherlands versus the US. And I think that bottom one, Netherlands versus the US, is definitely the one to watch. A replay of the 2019 Women's World Cup final. And just you wouldn't expect to have that match at this stage of the tournament because it's the European champions versus the world champions. But obviously the US have had a slightly disappointing campaign so far. I don't think it's quite gone how they've expected it. But at this stage, they're in the knockouts. So all you have to do now is win 3 games. Granted, win 3 hard games. But, it doesn't really matter how you've done in the group stage now, now that you're in the knockouts. You start all over again, don't you? So explain to our listeners how that plays out, Nancy.
Yeah, so, because there were 12 teams in total and then 3 groups. And then you had, so the top 2 teams in each group, and then there were also 2 best third place teams as well. So that's why we've now got the 8 teams in the quarterfinals, and then obviously goes into the semi-finals and then the final. So it's there's no kind of takeover from the group stage whatsoever. You just need to win the next game and progress through. But yeah, like I said, the Netherlands is a very tricky team to beat. You probably know more than me because you've been watching the US, and I haven't been able to watch them that much so far. But I mean, yeah, you probably have a better idea of whether you think you'll be able to beat the Netherlands or not.
I don't think so. How's that for a short answer?
Yeah, that is a short answer. Yeah, but I do think, just going from the scores, I think maybe a lot of people will feel the same.
I've become a big fan. Full disclosure, I've become a big fan. The fact that I can get up at 10-4, which, I'm an early riser at the best of times, but 10-4, I set my alarm so I did not miss the kickoff at 4 a.m. for their game against Australia. That tells you that I'm dedicated here at this point.
Yeah, that is dedication.
It's dedication. So, you know what I thought before this tournament started, and we all know that it's very different for Olympic Games in any sport. It's very different. And this side coming into this, I would have said absolutely. And I think, when we all talked about who our pick was, and mine was going to be the USA because I, really believed in the team. I still believe in the team, but I think for this tournament, it's like Simone Biles, she's off her game. I think this team is off its game right now. And I would be surprised, very surprised, if they could hold. Then they'd have to work hard and get back to the team they were coming into the games to hold them even to a draw.
Yeah, I mean, the Netherlands are, such a good team. What I would say, though, is that every game they've played, they've been very good attacking. They've scored a lot of goals, but they've also conceded a lot. Their attack is, they seem to be fully focusing on attack. Mm-hmm. And then leaving their defence completely wide open. All the games they've been in have had a lot of goals. I think their one today was 8-2. Against Zambia, it was 10-3. Against Brazil, it was 3-3. So I think, obviously the US failed to score against Australia, but the Netherlands probably are not going to be as defensively sound. So there might be a bit of a chink in their armour there. But then at the same time, you need the US to be completely solid in the back.
Yeah, playing like they usually do in their kind of World Cup form, and the form they've been on since the World Cup, coming into Tokyo. So what do you think that result will be then, Nancy?
Oh, God, I wouldn't want to guess. I will say the Netherlands as well. I thought the Netherlands was going to win gold overall, so I'm going to continue to back them. But I think it will be close, and I think it, again, will probably be quite high scoring. I'm going to say something like 4-3, something like that.
4-3 to the Netherlands. Okay, we're going to get 3 goals. Well, that's something. High scoring games they're used to, as you said. Who are going to be the other semi-finalists?
Okay, it's Canada, Brazil. I'm going to go with Brazil. Britain, Australia, I'm going to back the Brits. Sweden, Japan, Sweden. So I'm going with Brazil, Britain, Sweden, and the Netherlands. I think that's also what you've said as well. I think previously I said Canada and Brazil. I think it could be Canada, but I think Brazil they seem to be scoring more. So I'm going to, go with Brazil there.
And I also think, the fatigue when you've got so many games back to back in that combination of heat and humidity. And I think Brazil have that advantage of being a South American country, used to it, that heat and humidity combined, which our northern neighbours are not used to. So it may come down to tired legs, as simple as that sounds, but it may come down to that. So we're on the same page. We've got the same teams going through to the semi-finals. Are we going to go further than that?
Yeah, I can't remember the matchups, as in, let me just really quickly, because you know how the side of the draw will be if you lose this tournament. If you lose this match, then you go into this semi-final. Yes. So I'm just going to go into the bracket. Okay, so
while Nancy's doing this, I will remind everybody that you're listening to the WiSP Sports Desk here at WiSP Sports, which you can find on any podcast app. And later on in the program, we're going to be talking to Sarah Dawkins. Sarah is the producer at Sky Sports News, and she's out in Tokyo for the duration, the 2 full weeks. It's her first Olympic Games, and she's going to share with us what her impressions have been of the competition so far and what she's looking forward to for the rest of those games. So that's all to come a little bit later on in the programme. What have you found?
So, going by what we've guessed, it will be the Netherlands versus Brazil, and then Sweden versus Britain. I'm going to say the Netherlands beat Brazil, and I'm going to say at this point Sweden beat Britain. In the final, I'm going to say Netherlands beat Sweden, and then in the bronze medal match, I'm going to say Britain beat Brazil. So that's Netherlands gold, Sweden silver, Britain bronze.
Okay, I'm going to go... so far, I'm just going to go with the gold and silver, if that's okay. I'm just
that's fine.
Sweden and then the Netherlands.
So you've got, Sweden beating Netherlands in the final. That's
the other way around.
It could also be, I could say, I could see that happening as well. It's going to be really exciting. It's just so competitive.
We need to have a text or a conversation after the semis to see how after these quarterfinals to see if we've changed our mind about those teams going through and who might finish up on the podium.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Okay, moving right along here because we do have some more news to bring to you before we get to our guest this week. And it is another surprise defeat in the softball, which came back to the Games after missing the last 2 games. It came back to Tokyo because Japan are so keen on softball and baseball. But they played, not surprisingly, the USA for the final, and I watched that. In the closing stages, they were already 2-0 up Japan, and they finished it off very convincingly, but a really surprise defeat in some ways. I mean, I'm sure the experts who know softball better than I do will say it was going to be those 2 teams going into the final, but USA were very disappointed with that.
Yeah, I think it was the same as the Beijing 2008 final, wasn't it? Which Japan also won. So it's kind of that they're probably looking for revenge. But previous to 2008, the Americans had won all 3 Olympic softball titles. So yeah, it's kind of been a bit of a back and forth between the 2 countries, hasn't it? But yeah, I haven't managed to watch any of the softball competition, but there's just been so many sports on, so might have to watch the highlights for that. Otherwise, the softball tournament's kind of been and gone, passed me by.
Yeah, that can easily happen, can't it, with the Olympic Games? There is so much happening all at once. But another sport that is new to the Games, not softball, it came back, of course, this year, and it'll be gone again for Paris. So they're hoping that it'll be back in time for Los Angeles because of the US interest there in the sport. But a new sport to these Games is surfing, and the American took the title there.
Yeah, so surfing, one of the sports making its Olympic debut. Carissa Moore won, made history by winning the first ever Olympic surfing title. She's quite a well-known surfer, just from kind of when I was inside the Games covering, the World Surfing League and stuff. I think that is quite a expected title. She's the world number 1 and 4-time world champion, so you're kind of expecting her to get the Olympic gold medal, and she scored 14.93 points in the final to beat South Africa's Bianca Buitendag, who managed 8.46 points, so it's quite a comfortable victory there. But yeah, it was quite interesting because they actually moved the finals forward by 24 hours to compete, because obviously the typhoon was coming. So they managed to bring the final forward, get the medals won, and then the typhoon hit. So the organisers were quite savvy there. And obviously, they know how the weather can affect waves and how that can affect competition. So that was pretty good idea from them. Yes,
it certainly was. Yeah, obviously watching the weather out there. And I think if some other sports have been rescheduled because of that tropical storm that was approaching, but I think the GB football game that started off in the rain, didn't it?
Yeah, I heard it did, and the triathlon as well. If we go on to the last story of the day, the triathlon was because that happens here. The timing of it here is quite late evening because it's happening such early morning in Japan, so they can avoid the heat. But then, yeah, the typhoon by that point had kind of hit. So instead of heat, I mean, I imagine it was still very humid, but it was really heavy rain and wind. So there was a slight weather delay. So it didn't look quite kind of like your classic kind of Olympic sport where it was kind of sunny and stuff. You know, they were kind of competing in quite heavy rain. But Bermuda's Flora Duffy won that event and got Bermuda's first ever Olympic gold medal. So a really, really incredible achievement. And then also like to give a shout out to Britain's Georgia Taylor-Brown because I don't know if you managed to watch any of the triathlon, but she actually had her tire got a flat tire in the bike event about 2 kilometers out from when they transitioned into running, and she still managed to come back and get silver, which I think was just incredible because she just rode on a flat tire for 2 kilometers. So yeah, just I think amazing from her to kind of not give up and still get silver. And then Katie Tavares of the United States, who's a very successful triathlete, she got bronze. So yeah, it was a really kind of dramatic event with the weather and the flat tires, and yeah, it was a really, really great watch.
Yeah, I'd have to have a bear chasing me down these country lanes to ride 2 kilometres on a flat tyre.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's really, really impressive. Like, she fully deserves that silver medal.
Yeah, good for her. That's amazing. Well, we should give a shout out to Team GB, who got the bronze medal in dressage, in the team dressage.
Yeah, again, it's been a really successful day here. Again, that was all going well. I think I was trying to get stuff out about Simone Biles withdrawing. It was just so kind of hectic today. But yeah, team dressage bronze. That is a question, of course, is probably one of the sports that Britain's always been most successful in. So it's really nice to see us continue to achieve there. And I think actually Charlotte, sorry, how do you say her surname? Because I know Dujardin, yeah, she has actually become Britain's most decorated female Olympian. So she's moved up alongside Dame Catherine Granger, which is incredible. So yeah, really, it's been a really great day for the Olympics, also Britain, and then a lot of real amazing performances from female athletes as well.
Yeah, well, I should just fill the gaps in there that Germany, not surprisingly, because they've had a consistent run over 11 games now, apart from being interrupted at the London Olympic Games by Team GB, they consistently win the gold in team dressage. And, of course, the next individual round, is the freestyle. That will be individual medal. That would decide the individual medals. So Team GB got the bronze medal, and the silver went to the USA, and the gold to Germany there in the dressage today. So, yeah, lots more to come. We are only just starting the Olympic Games, and it just seems that so much has happened so fast. But as we said before, it's a very, very different Olympic Games. And we're going to get a perspective now from someone who's been out there from the start, and that's Sarah Dawkins, who is a producer for Sky Sports News. This is her first Olympic Games, and she's going to tell us what her impressions are of these first few days of competition. Sarah, welcome to the program. Thanks for ending your day here to join us on the podcast. How's it going so far?
Yeah, it's going well, thank you. We made an early decision, the Sky Sports News team made an early decision to come to the games for the whole of prep camp, for the whole of the Team GB prep camp, considering the 14-day restrictions. So the idea was that we get as much of that out of the way as possible before the games began. So I've actually been in Japan now for about, I think this is day 17, day 18. So yeah, more than feeling in the swing of things, I suppose, and actually just quite glad that the games have now begun, and that there is some action to get involved with.
Yeah, it starts to get into a kind of a rhythm, doesn't it? I'm going to interrupt our conversation just to tell you a newsflash that Simone Biles is out of the gymnastics team finals after an injury.
I've just seen that as well. That's massive news.
Yeah, that's very, very big news.
Yeah, that is.
Hopefully it is temporary. But that's breaking news. You heard it live here on the WiSP Sport Desk podcast. So back to Tokyo now. Sarah, how many Olympic Games have you done?
This is actually my first Olympic Games. So I'm like one of those athletes that has nothing to compare it to, and it's just soaking it all in, really. I went to the London Games as a spectator, but this is the first one that I've covered as a journalist. So yeah, it's an interesting experience, but one that I'm very grateful for and grateful to be here.
Yeah, it's certainly somebody, an old timer like me who's done a few. It is a very, very, very different experience for everybody concerned. And, I'm going to call this the Athletes' Games because it really is all about them. Nobody else is really getting to the party. So from a journalist point of view, you're not a non-rights holder, you were telling me before we came on, Sarah, at Sky Sports News.
Yeah,
so
correct.
That's limiting in a way. So what are you able to get? How's the access for you for non-rights holders?
Yeah, so that is part of the reason why we decided to come out to prep camp, is because we do have a very good relationship with Team GB and the British Olympic Association, and the more that we can gather and spend time with the athletes before they begin their competition, before they sort of go very much into their competition bubble, the better. And so, yes, it is limiting because it means we can't show, the competition as it happens live. But it means that we can pick and choose the stories that we want to tell and we want to focus on, rather than feeling like we have to cover everything. And also means that we can, tell alongside the big sports stories, the big news stories as well. Obviously coronavirus being a very big one at this Games, but it kind of, I suppose, being a non-rights holder does give you a little bit more flexibility in terms that you don't always have to focus on the sport if there is a big news story in town as well.
Nancy, have you been watching Sky Sports as well?
I don't have Sky, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, that is the issue, I suppose, is the fact that we are a subscription channel, and you have to have a Sky subscription, to watch Sky Sports News. It didn't always used to be like that, and it's not like that for Sky News, but for Sky Sports News, yeah, you have to have a Sky subscription. So Olympics is one of those things where traditionally, I mean, Sky is probably most well known for its football and its football coverage, and a large chunk of our viewers probably that's maybe all they care about. So the Olympics is one of those unique opportunities where you get to bring to them and to their living rooms other sports which they wouldn't ordinarily watch, and I guess that's the beauty of the Olympics. So look, we know that we can't compete with the BBC, the rights holders, when it comes to the actual games itself, but we can, we can't win the war, but we can win small little battles in that way. So that's kind of how we look at doing our coverage, is that, the more scoops and the more the good interviews that we can get in the build up and during the games, that's what we try and do, and that's what we try and focus on, because we know that we can't compete with the BBC in terms of resources and the kind of coverage that they can provide. Right.
And of course, this is the big difference between those and, for our listeners who are not familiar with it, whether you buy, and it depends on how deep your pocket is as to what you get in terms of as rights holders or non-rights holders. But as a non-rights holders, as you said, Sarah, you can get fun stories that the rights holders are not getting. And as you said earlier, you can pick and choose. So it's fun in a way because it gives you a different kind of challenge, because you're not going to get competition footage, right? So you focus on the stories, and there are so many backstories, aren't there, to Olympic sport?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, that is one of the things that, people absolutely love about the Olympics. And what I love about the Olympics, as a job and a journalist, we actually did an interview with Adam Jamili today. He's a British sprinter. And he said something really nice at the end of the interview, where he's saying, one of the main reasons for us being here is to try and inspire people to become the next Adam Peaty, the next Tom Daley, but ultimately we are normal people. We're not superheroes, they are normal people. They're ordinary people like us, but they just very, very talented at their sport. But behind every athlete there is a great story, and I think that's what we love getting involved with. So, for example,
let's talk about the women, Sarah. We focus on the women here. So give us some good women's stories that you've picked up while you were there.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, absolutely. Well, so for example, Charlotte Dujardin, she is, you will know her if you're into your equestrian. She obviously put equestrian and dressage certainly on the map from a British point of view at London 2012, the girl on the dancing horse. And she is one of 4 British women who could make history, or could have made history at Tokyo 2020 by winning 3 gold medals at consecutive games. Jade Jones was one of those in the taekwondo, and she unfortunately got knocked out in the first round of the competition, which was a big shock. But the next up in those 4 women is Charlotte Dujardin, and so what I was just in a planning meeting just before I've come on here with you guys, and it's we were discussing where can we be tomorrow to get some reaction. If she does well, can we speak to her parents, try and find out a bit more about her backstory? Let's go to the yard where she trains and she spends time. So they're the kind of things that we will try and unpick when it comes to an athlete. And obviously Charlotte Dujardin is at one end of the spectrum. She's someone who we already know, and she's already in the limelight. But then the beauty of the Olympics is that then you have people that pop up out of nowhere, like for example the Tom Dean, the swimmer, the British male swimmer who won a medal today, but even like Lauren Williams, GB Taekwondo again, she won a silver medal, but she was largely sort of unheard of. Everyone was focusing so much on Jade Jones that we weren't seeing the other athletes in the team, and she went on to win a silver medal. It turns out that she was inspired to take up Taekwondo because she watched Jade Jones at London 2012, and there are all these great backstories that we like to delve into.
Yeah, well, there certainly are plenty of them. What are you looking forward to then for the rest of this week down there, Sarah? Which sports do you personally follow, and what are you most excited about?
Yeah, so I'm a hockey player. I obviously will be keeping an eye out for both the men and the women's progress. GB women won gold at Rio, and that was obviously incredibly exciting. So I will be keeping an eye out for them. I don't want to kind of jinx their chances, but I'm not entirely sure the women will progress as much as they did and do as well as they did in Rio, but the men do look like they have a good chance. So from a personal point of view, I'll be very much looking out for the hockey, but I think it will be particularly exciting when the cycling gets going as well. Team GB of in previous past Olympics have done pretty well in cycling, and there's Laura, one of those 4 athletes that I mentioned, Laura Kenny. She has a potential to make history. So we'll be looking out for her. And then finally, there's Helen Glover and Polly Swan in the rowing. She has a great story. She effectively retired after Rio 2016. She had 3 kids and then only decided to get back on the ergo machines just during lockdown because she was a bit bored, realised that she was making some pretty good times, and made her way back into the Olympic team, and now she's back in at the Olympics. So there are some great stories to come. It's just whether they can pull them off.
Absolutely, that's what it comes down to. Nancy, your thoughts?
Yeah, sorry, I just had to go on mute there because I've got some building works happening next door, which has been a nightmare all day. But I think it's been really interesting so far. I think a lot of the stories that are coming out of it, there's been a lot of really positive ones, but especially in the Taekwondo, it's kind of the stories of losing in the last few seconds, and especially with Lauren Williams, who's only 22. It was an amazing achievement, and she's kind of, really geared up for Paris now. So it's kind of almost setting up the new narratives for Paris, which is only 3 years' time. kind of these kind of last gasp defeats and getting silver, and whether they'll be able to kind of get gold at the next games. I'm really looking forward to some of the boxing as well. I think there's a lot of really amazing stories in the boxing. I think Charlie Davison, who I think had children quite young and left boxing to have children, and has since come back from having 3 children, I think it is, and is competing at the Olympics, which I think is an amazing story. So I'll be definitely looking out for that one.
Sarah, as a hockey player, aren't you amazed at Ireland's progress over the last 4 years since the World Cup? I mean, their shock there, and what they've done here. I mean, they are a pretty exciting team to watch.
Yes, they are. Yeah, they are. So I previously I probably wouldn't have known much about the Irish hockey team, but my boyfriend is Irish, and so I sort of take a big interest in them now because his cousin is on the team, Chloe Watkins. She's actually one of their star players, and they've done phenomenally well. And I do. It's one of those things where if you think about the postponement, they probably want on a little bit of a roll off the back of the World Cup, and whether or not it will just be interesting to see how they get on and in this tournament, and whether or not they can keep that momentum going. But I mean, it was fantastic. They've made history just by being here, and particularly pointing that the men's team didn't make it as well. So they're sort of, very much flying the flag for Ireland out here.
It's very exciting for them. And to make their debut, and of course so many athletes are making their debut at the Olympics in very, very unusual circumstances, without the roar of the crowd and the fans and the cheering, the family. They are very much on an island. It's strange to look at those stadiums completely empty, although I was watching the US play Australia this morning at football. And I emphasize football, Sarah, because I keep calling it soccer. At football. And there was a small crowd. There was a group of 8,000 students from a local school. So that was the first time we've actually seen an audience, so to speak. But it is very, very strange atmosphere for the athletes. I really do feel for them, because the Olympic experience is very different when there's a crowd there. But hopefully many of these will go on to another Olympic Games, and we can look forward to seeing them there. Now, Sarah, you're there for the duration, are you, in Tokyo?
Yes, I am. Yeah. We leave a couple of days after the closing ceremony. So we're here for the long haul.
Will you be able to get to the closing ceremony?
Possibly, yes. I actually rather cruelly did have a ticket for the opening ceremony, but because of the way that we were covering it and needed to cover it back home, I wasn't able to get there. But I was fortunate go to the swimming session in the morning, and see Adam Peaty win his gold, and I felt very privileged to be there, and actually just picking up on the point that you made around the lack of crowds in the stadium. Obviously there was a fraction of the number of the people in the stadium that there would be there have been a full crowd, but the teams themselves are doing their utmost to try and create some kind of atmosphere for the people that are competing. There's flags and they're all cheering, and there's the sirens and all sorts of things. So it's very easy in a swimming pool to create an atmosphere because of the echo and the sound, but it didn't feel completely sterile, I have to say. But that being said, look, it's not nothing compared to a proper crowd, and it is a shame for the athletes certainly making their debut, although I've spoken to quite a few athletes, Olympic debutantes, who have said that, we don't know anything different, so we've just got to accept it and get on with it. Nothing's going to change now, and look, it would just, if they can make it then to Paris, and they'll feed off that crowd, and who knows what it will do for their performance. If someone can win a gold medal without a crowd, who knows what they could do with one.
That is true. When they do get the roar of the crowd behind them, it's exactly. That will be a totally different experience for them. Well, hopefully many of them will get that opportunity. But Sarah, congratulations on making your Olympic debut as well.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I mean, that's not nothing in terms of a journalistic career. So, it's great to have one under your belt, and hopefully you'll have several more.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I feel I previously worked at Sky News until I applied for this job to work as the Olympics producer. So with the postponement, I guess that gave me an extra year to get my head into the Olympics game, but it's something that I've always loved and been knowledgeable about. And I think having worked just on the Olympics and all things Olympics and Paralympics, I should say, for the last 2 years, it's certainly something that I want to keep on doing. It's addictive, and I think the nature of the stories that come out of the Olympics are they feel a lot better to tell than just talking to overpaid footballers or something. Nothing against footballers, but you know what I mean.
Totally understand that. Well, I hope you'll come out with a great collection of pins as well, because that's part of the Olympic experience, trading pins.
It is, yeah.
Nancy, anything more from you?
Just obviously, I hope you're having a good time, Sarah, because I was going to be heading out in my old job. I switched jobs kind of 3-4 months ago.
Yeah, I think I followed you on Twitter when you were of Inside the Games fame.
So it's been really interesting just, I think, talking to my old colleagues and hearing the perspective of the games, because it just seems like such a unique experience. So I'm kind of glad I'm here, and also very jealous. I've got a weird mix of emotions at the moment, but it's amazing everyone out there, the work they're doing to make sure that we're all kind of keeping up to date with everything. So just hope you're enjoying it.
Yeah, like I said before, I do feel very, very privileged to be here, and I think we'll look back on it as a very unique situation, and probably look back on it and think how on earth it went ahead.
Yes.
But there we go.
When you get to Paris, hopefully you get to Paris, both of you, and you'll experience a real Olympic Games, and then you'll say, my goodness, when I look back 3 years, but there we are. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show. Really appreciate it. Enjoy the rest of your Olympic experience.
Thank you very much.
So having listened to Sarah, Nancy, what's your thoughts? Do you wish you were there still, or kind of glad you're doing it from a distance, this one, and hopefully get to the next one?
Yeah, I think mixed emotions. I think before the game started, when everyone was having to do all the testing and filling in activity logs, I was very happy to be at home. Since the sport has started, I'm really, really still incredibly lucky to be just doing this as my job, reporting on Olympic sport. But I do have a slight tinge of jealousy. Yeah, I think especially because one of my former colleagues, he was at the tennis and just sent me a picture of Naomi Osaka being interviewed, and I was like, "Oh, this!" that is that kind of experiences you get when you're at the Olympic Games that you can't really get when you're sitting at home. But I mean, the Olympics happen every 4 years, so I'm just, I'll just be at future games, and like I said, it's obviously it would have been a games with a lot of restrictions, very difficult to kind of do your job properly, or like to the best of your ability, and always the risk as well of kind of being quarantined or something like that. So it's I am enjoying it at home as well, so it's it would have been a unique experience, but I'll just be heading to Paris hopefully you will. There'll be a lot more Olympic Games, and you, Nancy, you're at the right end of your career for that, so look forward to that. Before we wrap up, Nancy, I just want to go back to the point we made earlier and we discussed before about this being a very different Olympic experience for the athletes, right? Because there being no crowd, no parents, no family support, no network, they're relying on their team, which is great, but the whole Olympic atmosphere is just not there for them. And we wondered how that might impact them. What are your thoughts when you watch some of these, stories that we read, some of these stories that are coming out of there, and that the performances in some cases are not what we expected? I know Olympics is different, but this is very different. Yeah, I think it's the performances have been different, but I think what athletes are saying after the events in kind of post-match or post-event interviews, what they've been saying there has also been really different. Like there's kind of a different you know, to say Jade Jones, the British taekwondo athlete, she's a 2-time Olympic champion and went out in the opening round and was just kind of saying how she felt like a lot of pressure. And normally when you have those kind of conversations with elite athletes, they like the pressure, they kind of thrive off it. But she was saying it was, you know, having that pressure and not having friends and family in the crowd, you know, it's probably more of a negative type of pressure. I think when at the Olympics, you've got the crowd making such a big noise and it gives you an adrenaline boost, and you could probably look into the stands and your friends and family are there. You know, there's the pressure on you, but it's different. It's quite a positive. I think you could draw on it in comparison to kind of being in an empty arena. There's not really that much you can draw on, and it's maybe just a bit you can get very in your own head, maybe a bit overwhelmed with it. I think that is what we're seeing here. And I just think it's really interesting how many athletes are kind of saying that and being very honest about it. And it is, yeah, in my opinion, it's definitely impacting performances a bit. But then at the same time, a lot of people seem to thrive off it. And we're getting some kind of new Olympic champions and you know, in that respect, fair play to them, because they obviously managed to deal with the occasion well. Even if it's a bit different to normal. So yeah, it's been really, really, really interesting. And I think, yeah, fair play, I think, to any athlete that has gone out there and competed, because it's obviously been a very difficult time for the past 18 months and not knowing when you can train. So I think just even getting to the games is a massive achievement.
It is, absolutely. Olympians stand out from the rest of us, that's for sure. All right, Nancy, well, that's about a wrap for this week. And as we said, we've got a lot more Olympic sport next week. But we should, before we go, I'm preempting you, because we did want to make the point that this isn't just about the Olympic sports, because other things have been happening in the world of women's sports. And you experienced your first-hand cricket game when you went to the 100 at the Oval last week, didn't you?
Yeah, so, well, to be fair, I had been to a T20 game before in Headingley when I was at uni. But I say this is my first women's cricket game. Oh, so okay. That was men's.
Okay.
Yeah, it was.
It doesn't count then, so you can't.
Yeah, it doesn't count. Yeah, it was great. So it was, yeah, the opening match of the 100, which is a new competition here, which is kind of aiming to make cricket more accessible to audiences that haven't really been able to watch it or play it before. So that includes women and girls, and they've got men and women's teams, and they're kind of aiming to put them on an equal footing and give them the same amount of coverage and marketing. And part of that was having the first opening game as the women's game, which was the first major team competition in the UK to open with a women's fixture. So very historic. So it was at the Oval, and it was between Oval Invincibles and Manchester. I can't remember their name. The team from Manchester, and yeah, it was actually really, really, really good. I really enjoyed it. Really good crowd. It was quite funny because obviously these teams are completely brand new, so no one really had any kind of like loyalty to them. But being in the Oval, everyone was obviously supporting the Oval Invincibles, and I think the organisers were very lucky as well, because it was got very close at the end. So I think it went down to kind of the last 4 balls, maybe, or maybe even less. So everyone was kind of getting really, really behind the team, and it was just really, really good to see. And it was, I think as well, part of it was just being in a crowd for a sporting event, because I was thinking I haven't done this in like years now. It's been so long. So it was that in itself just gave me a real buzz. So yeah, I'm dragging along my friends to more
good.
More games. Yeah,
so glad. We hoped we could convert you to cricket, but you've done it on your own.
Yes, yeah, well, thanks to the 100. Hope now I can, maybe that will help me into T20, and then from T20 I can go into Test cricket.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you're going for the big league. All right, well, I'm glad you enjoyed it and had the full cricket experience. That's great. Well, that about wraps it up, I think, this time round. And, of course, you can follow Nancy on social media at...
Nancy_Gillen is my Twitter account. And then on Instagram, I'm Nancy Gillen _sport. So they are my two accounts.
Yep. And we are, of course, at WiSP Sports and at wisports.com, where you'll find the show notes and the links to these stories, as always, at wisports.com. But do follow us on social media. Leave us a review on your Apple Podcast app or anywhere where you listen to podcasts, and that will help others find us if you don't mind leaving us a review and a rating. Well, Nancy, this time next week then, and we'll see whether we are, if our predictions have been right when it comes to the football, and what else unfolds at these Olympic Games.
Oh, just everything, really. I mean, the rest of the artistic gymnastics. We've got the athletics starting at the weekend, which I'm so excited for the women's 100 metres and 200 metres. The boxing, when it starts to get to the medal bouts, I think that would be really good. Just every sport basically. And
then swim finishes, and then of course it's track and field, it's athletics next week. So a lot more to look forward to, and of course the eventing starts in a couple of days, and then show jumping next week. That's if you're an equestrian sport fan, as I am. All right, Nancy, till next week then. Have fun, enjoy the games, what you can follow at the right hour of the day without losing sleep completely.
Yeah, it's been quite lucky. I've been getting up at kind of like 7 and managing to catch it all. So I've been quite fortunate with the timings.
All right. Well, for the rest of you, enjoy these Olympic Games. We'll be back next week at the same time, same place. Until then, thank you for listening.